everyone. Welcome. It is the Minneapolis Poetry Sanctuary's winter open mic. We have some new poets. We have some returning poets. I'm very excited. It's going to be a great night. I hope that you all had a good New Year's, and I am hoping and praying that this next year will be better for everyone. I wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for this community, for your support, for your listening, for your sharing. I created this project back in, I think it was June of 2020, and this community is very important to me. It means a lot to me. I think that poetry and sharing your stories, your words is so important. And I created this project because I wanted a space for everyone. I want a space where you feel safe, where you can, work up. Maybe you've never read your poems before, so you work up the courage to do so. I've had a lot of people on here who have never read before. So I encourage you to just keep writing, keep doing what motivates you, keep doing what, gives you bliss, what gives you meaning. The last couple of years have been really hard on this planet. And for me personally, my writing and my art and everything is what gets me through and what helps me. And I just felt that as like the creator of this project, I really wanted to take a moment to thank you, because your support, your words are what give me hope, that inspire me, that, it's a really beautiful thing to experience and witness and be a part of. So I just want to thank you. You're all amazing. And I just hope and pray for this community to continue to grow. And if you're out there and you're listening and you haven't been on here, you're too nervous to or something, just reach out to me. You don't have to do it. I'm not going to pressure you to. Just if you want to just talk about it or you have questions, just let me know. But thank you. You guys are all awesome, y'all. So Sarah Riveros, welcome. I am so happy to see your face tonight. So she is our first poet, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Frances. So good to be here, and always a joy to hear poetry read aloud, especially in this truly sanctuary of a literary space. So thank you for organizing and hosting. I am a poet and a mother and a Spanish professor. I live on the east side of St. Paul, and I have a few poems chosen. The first is called Without Revision. It starts with an epigraph by a Cuban poet, Dulce Maria Loinas. Señor, las criaturas que enviaste ya están aquí, aleteando junto a mi cabeza. Lord, the creatures that you sent are here now, flapping their wings beside my head. I've never been one to mince words, though I'm always willing to retract what I shouldn't have said out loud. Poems fly out of my hands, fully fledged, ready to try their wings aloft. I've been holding my breath for years for this moment. I open the shutters, and they flap wings and rustle, dying to live free. Snow falling on teeth. This poem also has an epigraph by L.R. Nost. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you. When the bough bends, snaps over a knee, a child inside sits, shaking, the piano keys now still. This solitude after rebellion like driving in a feather pillow, radio on or off. When alone, you have choices like that. I need my vices, a thermos of coffee and milk, so by late morning, this rage makes sense, even to me and to those who don't know the history. Mercy surprises you, a name for what you didn't feel until you saw blood on the snow and didn't know it was yours. In the absence of pain, fear dissolves. You can show numb teeth, crinkle your eyes when you, unbidden, decide to flash a smile. I'm working on a book of poems called 2 Blocks from Hope Street, because more than once I found myself in a house 2 blocks from Hope Street, and that's how I know when I'm home. This is called Written on Your Heart. Hope is the scariest word, scarier than love, even scarier than forever. Hope on my heart says, break, but keep beating. Tear in two, but keep pulsing with life's energy. Hope says yes. Through anxiety and pain, we will go on despite fear and failure. Hope sits on the heart believing that a little bit is enough, that enough is plenty, that plenty is not going to be too much. Hope sits firm, a weightless anchor that cannot be knocked off, holding on and saying yes, again, yes, and yes, yes, we're still here. We'll go on being a yes that knows no ending. So I'm a single mom of 5 kids and home in quarantine after Christmas break, and trying to keep everybody safe. And this poem is called What Holds Me Up. What holds me up is a box of apples on the front porch at 2 a.m. when we roll in from a day that blurred into a night on the road, an unwanted trip that ended in midnight applesauce. A teen who says, "Your water's hot. What kind of tea do you want?" We're out of the Fox kind. A sticker in the mail from a nonprofit, a blue wave for human rights and hope. A new mask in the mailbox of Rosie the Riveter in a blue bikini with the word vote in blue. I don't even trust the government, but I do believe in women who say, "This is my address. I have herbs for you in my yard," and who stand in garages and on porches on a rainy day until we're both shivering, shaking, suffering in community, knowing that this is what holds me up. It's all of us in this together, you and 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 I, together keeping us afloat. We write the future we might imagine, speak words into the oceans of grief, a raft of language to sing each other home. Do I have time for one more, Francis, or should I stop? One more? Okay. This poem is called Village. The prompt was to imagine a world I want to live in. The school bus passes at 6 a.m. and again at 8. Kids can ride whichever one works on a given day. A grandmother breezes through the front door, gently chides the children about shoes, socks, backpacks. Nothing gets misplaced because there are hooks and cabinets for everything. The dogs stand still while their leashes hold them posed, polite, listening. A friend sits in the rainbow hammock, swinging and waiting for lemonade. You say goodbye without spilling all your guts in 10 minutes. Inside, dinner is in the oven, spiced Midwestern, a global hint of homemade somewhere. When a neighbor kid tells you when they were small, their granny hit them with a wooden spoon, you can walk to the corner and talk that through with another grown-up over hot tea while someone else takes over the dishes, sweeps, checks the calendar, packs lunches for tomorrow. This is your village. You are home to many. This is your Hope Street. You are home.
Oh, Sarah, thank you so much. Your work is so grounded, so human. I really love it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What an absolute pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. You got me crying already. Okay. The tears are here. They're here now.
Thank you, Sarah.
And River, so wonderful to have you. And you're our second poet, so thank you.
Well, let's see here. Where is it both? There you go. Oh, I did the wrong thing. Sorry, you guys. So I guess to introduce me, I would begin with, I just recently was honored I was chosen for something in, I live in Wisconsin. I live in River Falls, Wisconsin. I'm in the St. Croix Valley. And I was recently, actually on the 20th of December, chosen out of, there's 5 of us all together. They wanted some poets of place, to ambassadors for the lower St. Croix Valley for poetry and creativity. And yeah, I understand. I'm all new to it, so I'm not really sure exactly how it works, but I think I need to say stuff when I go places. And so I guess to introduce me, I have the heart of a poet and the eyes of an artist. And I have a website that you can find any books or any other information on. It's rivermaria.org. And I run I host a literary event called Up Close, Meet the Poet Behind the Verse. And it's the first Wednesday evening of the month. And so it's this coming Wednesday, actually, on the 5th, and we're featuring Jer Chur, and it's we do it an interview, poetry reading, and then a giveaway. So there's some audience questions at the end, but it's kind of just focused on one person. But tonight I literally just have 2 poems. One that I thought would be nice for all the people that feel like you walk in 2 worlds, I guess would be the way to say it. And it's from my manuscript Spirit Songs. Eventually I'll get published. Such a hard thing. It's called Footsteps. I walk between 2 realities, poles apart. One is home, the other heart. I linger along the edge with shoes in hand, listening to the songs, learning the ways of my people. Hesitant to move, to re-enter the place I usually dwell, I sit and pray until the sun goes down. I put on one moccasin in one Italian leather boot, then walk into a world of tomorrows. Then my second one is for winter. And this one, I dug it out. I punched into my computer today, winter, and this is what came up. And I even remember when I wrote it, but I remember it was mine, but I just don't remember when. Barefoot in winter. A draft escapes the illusion cast upon a winter's day, drifting low across the floor, across the wood floor, cold settles in. I ask, will it ever end? Will I ever hear their morning song? or feel the sun kiss my bones warm once more. And unless you have I don't know, I have to dig, that's all I have for you.
Well, thank you, River. One thing people may not know about you is that you love to have little gnomes and fairies in your garden.
Yes, and all my house plants. Yep. Yeah, I gave my nephew a book about magical creatures for Christmas, because he's too into video games and crap. He's in 3rd grade, and it's a field book, and then a world book to go with it. And I told him, because I can't see him very often because he's in school, right? So and I'm someone that didn't have a shot because of health reasons, and so I said, okay, so whenever you have questions, and and you've got a brownie that turned into a Bogart, taking all your stuff, just have your mom's what was it, FaceTime me, or whatever, and you can ask me, and it was really, really cute. Yeah. Try to be an aunt in this world, my God. But thank you very much.
It's like they say in, what is it, the superhero movies, it's always good to have a guy in the chair, or in this case, the aunt in the chair. I used to call my grandma. I used to call my grandma. My grandma would call me, and they say, if those kids ever make you cry, you call me, and I'll make it hurt worse. And she's like, I won't.
Oh.
She's like, I don't know how, but I'll stick up for you. And I'd be like, oh, thank you, Grandma.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, River, and congratulations. That is such an honor, and you'll have to send me more info on that so I can look into what exactly the award that you got. Maybe you can post the information in the comments under the video. That would be great. Sounds
Okay.
great.
Yeah, I'll put the event in there too. I don't really know how people on Facebook, you can look for it at Up Close Poets, I think.
Yeah, I meant the Poet of Place award that you got. That sounds pretty cool. So I'll have to look into more of what that means.
It's like a poet laureate, but only a city, a state, or a country can name a poet laureate. And this was from a gallery and library and a whole system I wanted to do the whole lower a certain area. So they call them Poet of Places. There's 5 of us, but I'll put something in the chat. Thank you
so much, and congratulations. Third up, we have you, George, and I appreciate your little add in there. I didn't know that about River, so that's pretty sweet.
Well, River is a very special friend. Let me introduce myself. I'm been a poet since about 3rd grade, when I used to sell love poems to little boys to impress their little girls for a nickel, and I would get lunch money that way. I've published 4 books. They're on Amazon. If you search my name, George Colburn, you'll see them. My latest one is called An Undeclared War, Poetry Born in Vietnam, because I am a Vietnam veteran. I was very fortunate to receive the Veterans Voices Award in 2019 from the Minnesota Humanities Commission. And for the last 2+ years, I've been running the Bird's Nest Poetry Open Mic once a month, last Sunday of every month, along with Rick Hilber and Greg Rude. So I have a few poems to read. The first one is a response poem. One of my absolute favorites is William Carlos Williams, this is just to say that I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox and that you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me, they were delicious, so sweet and so cold. And this is my response. No plums for William Carlos Williams. There were no plums in the icebox, although I was sure they were there. I searched the hydrator and beyond and the depths of my mind, but there were no plums in the icebox. The people on the bus on my way home probably wondered what the smile in my eyes meant as I sat anticipating, but there were no plums in the icebox. Their sheen unsurpassed in my mind's eye, opalescent ruby sheen and gentle cleft from stem to stigma, like your sweet rump. But there were no plums in the refrigerator. I could not conjure them from the mist as I opened the chilled door, just an absence I could not let go of. But there were no plums in the icebox for me, selfish me, to devour. No juicy drip down my chin to savor as I savor you, so sweet and so cold. I got to thinking about how my house is not as cozy as I dreamt it would be. And I wrote this. It's called "My House Has Been Lying to Me Again," feigning cozy, pretending warm. There are leaks that send heat out into the winter world in secret. Part of the foundation is sinking. Out the upstairs window, snow bears down in flat spots, melting into clandestine spaces where it makes ceiling paint bulge and flake around fixtures and vents. I can hear the furnace whispering conspiracies that undulate through pipes and radiators without regard for me, whether shivering in my living room or under supposedly snug covers in my solstice bedroom. I can almost hear the wicked taunts of the lathe inside my walls smirking. You are my pawn. I can twist you from comfort to misery in a minute. Do not trust plaster or shingles. They leave no prisoners behind. This one is called "I Cannot Tell You." I cannot tell you that the world is safe for children, that you have nothing to fear. Half the world doesn't see you, and more than that, are insincere. Sometimes your heart will be broken, and much you won't understand. Tears will not bring you solace, and you will suffer from demand that makes no sense at all. You may never fill your wishes or see your dreams come true, but sometimes you'll awaken to find someone who loves you. If it had been me rolling across the scorching sun like some volcanic Vulcan god, I would have cheated the fire of life and grabbed you breathless, tumbling down green grass thick beneath every secret ever kept, forged in your slender curves, in your clever eyes, in your fevered sighs, if it had only been me. I would tear you away, whisper soft close in your ear. Let him go, let him go. I'm the one who holds you fitfully in amber dreams, full of flames licking, flicking, arousing, not burning, heat untamed but pulsing, between us indelibly burnt, writing the story of us in love without him, searing the scene, if it had only been me. This last one I wrote in college, and it was after I read Kafka, and I started to understand his view of things. It's called A Carnival for Kafka. The midway is kaleidoscopic, a continuous extension of canvas and light. Hawkers bleat their perpetual astonishment like Judas goats over the crowd-drenched lanes. We move in mass, so close we pulse in unison. We rush in circles. I must get off. Stop here, I think, and move in quick steps. Wander behind the freak show tent. Take a breath. The man with two faces shares a cigarette with himself. Boopty, the horned lady, makes circles in her wheelchair. The frog boy laughs. It doesn't matter. He drinks muscatel with his stumps. I want to ask them who they are, but they know the question. Instead, they say, "This is the final stop." I falter, back into the tent. Tattoos erupt along my arms, etch into my face. The freaks form a circle and mumble, "They are not speaking of me. They are not speaking of me." Thank you.
Thank you so much, George. I am very thankful to have you here. It always warms my heart to see the familiar faces, the people that I'm getting to know. So thank you.
Well, thank you for sponsoring this. It's appreciated.
Absolutely.
Oh, I have one comment real quick, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I just want to say, George, you are one romantic man.
Strong, helplessly romantic second. I appreciate that.
I think I got a quarter. I think I got a quarter over here. Maybe we can buy a couple poems to win me a man.
Thanks.
Wonderful to have you all here. Well, we have Skyler up next. Skyler, you've never been here before, so welcome.
This actually fulfills my travel plans for the year. I have a lot of friends who are in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Last year, I traveled there to try to connect with the youth archives. I'm sure some of you know about that. The youth archives that I think are in East Minneapolis, not St. Paul, along the lines of where the George Floyd protests really were like centered. And I got some good photos of the post office. And luckily there was a farmer's market across the street where we could talk to some of the people. And I was hoping to, I'm currently an MLIS student at the University of Washington. I'm here in Seattle, Washington. And I was hoping I could get in touch with a couple of those people so I could work with them. But understandably with the muss and the fuss and the panini and the Omicron, it's hard to get in touch with all the native peoples. We're all kind of hiding. But it is absolutely a pleasure to talk with you all and maybe I can come and visit you in St. Paul and the Minneapolis, because I love it so much. My dear friend who is Aztec from South Mexico, he interfaced with the American Indian movement, and he took me around the native town in central Minneapolis, and it was an absolute pleasure, and I cannot wait to go back again. So what a pleasure. I also haven't been in group in a while. I talked to a poet friend. I was like, I actually haven't sat in poetry group in a long time, and I feel it. You all are just like my friends back home in Corvallis, Oregon. Especially, we were romantics. Yeah, definitely. Yes, we wrote some love poems. I don't know about this, like, we actually had this motto that we do not slam. There wasn't a lot of like, like fighting or anything. There's a whole lot of loving going on in Corvallis. So I got an exercise for you guys. I have 2 words for you in Klamath. It is moo, like the cow, moo, and deek, D-I-C, moo deek. It means very well. I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and you say moo deek. Okay, here we go. It is wak liski, how are you? And you say
Modique,
moo deek. Very good. And I say dam li diki, that means are you well? And you say
Modique,
Modique.
Modique.
Mudik. If I say Satme Kios, that means call the doctor. That means you're not well. And if I say Wakli Hosta, that means how are you feeling? And you say
Moody.
Mudik. So a lot of my writing, and especially my last chat book, is around language. And I have this very, very firm belief. I don't like this idea that there are dead languages. I think that is such Western TV imperious bullshit. Like people need divisions in their life, like things that are living in. I don't believe in that at all. And so I'm going to do 2 things. One, I'm going to read a poem about how I feel about the land under Seattle, which belongs to the Duwamish tribe. I'm not Duwamish. It's not my fight here, but I like to support them. I'm Klamath from Oregon. And then the way that I felt when I was driving around Minneapolis, and I saw so much native representation around there. I just have to say, like, go help an Ojibwe granny bring her groceries home sometime. You'll hear a lot more language than you think you do. So the first poem that I'm going to read to you, there it is after something that the writer Lydia Yukevich said in an interview last year, where somebody asked her about how she feels living in modernity, and she said, look outside, look up into the stars, you'll see the 7 sisters, and then when you look in the cities, we recreated the cities after the stars because that's what we love, not because we really need those lights on all the time. It's because since we can't see the stars very well in the cities, we just recreated the stars. And I thought that was really beautiful. And so what she said is, that time they spied the 7 sisters and said electromagnetic light. After Lydia. That time they spied the 7 sisters and said electromagnetic light. We are the stars that they decided belong to us. Oh, I'm fading in and out here. Here we go. I'll get closer. On steel, in a move along cardboard turnstile, hall parapet area, coming soon, only knowing God to man. Whoever leaves us, the last of us, will you at least turn off the light? We were tired of your departure, your Martian romance. There's some romance for us. We were tired of your departure, and your Martian romance is awaiting your final exit from this planet. An exit for miles, an exit we are waiting, signs and symbols given to us at the heaven's gate. Whomever sees this, you could, like me, be home by now. Why est the mountain I have not seen since they named it Mount Hood? Chawam, Chawam, the fish don't swim since they took our stream and named it river. Sialth, Sialth, the chief that brings me sun, they will block out when they're done building. Steel tributes to our sisters in heaven. Steel tributes to our sisters in heaven. Steel tributes to our sisters in heaven. Sisters, 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 sisters in heaven. I walked bamboo and ate a cherry tree. I know my directions, west to east, north to south, Paella to the darkest, blackest sand beach. I looked at Piahe in the mouth of the ocean, the wave, the mountain, the cave, the darkness, these everlasting city streets. I said, electromagnetic light, as mine keeps coming in and out. And so you see, there's a lot of language in there. There's some things maybe a couple of you from Minneapolis haven't heard. Wyest is our name for the mountain near Portland, Oregon. And they like to call it Mount Hood after some guy that nobody even remembers. Sialth is the name of the chief and the name of the city. And even though we all know that here in Sialth, we still call it Seattle for no reason. And Chawam is the name of the salmon and the fish. So then the second thing that I'm going to read to you is a little bit from my blog about the name of a chief across the sound. And you can see this, you can see the whole thing on my Substack. It's Skyler writes at substack.com, and I'll put that in the chat. But there's an entire article that I wrote about going to a place called Port Townsend, Washington, which is an old port, and finding out, I found there was this, there's this totem pole that was in the middle of the port that me and my person, we looked up at, and my person said, what does that mean? Because I usually know what things on the totem mean. Sometimes it's bear, which is me. Sometimes it's eagle, sometimes it's orca. And in this case, there was a man, and there was another man, and there was like a ship, and it was symbols. And I was like, maybe it's fake, or maybe somebody just created something new, or I don't know. And from the article, I'm just going to read a little bit from you, but I want to show you that language still is alive within us. We can choose these languages. We can even as our Indo-European cousins, you can be like the new hip, like Italian speaking, but instead of Italian, it can be Sklallam speaking, Western Puget Sound language aficionados. And I said, as it turns out, I am both lucky and dumb in this sense. The Chitsamoka Park is point one in a new trail system developed in part by long-distance cyclist Liz Burden, the Jamestown Sklallam tribal leader Select Karnowski, and the Port Townsend Maritime Center. Prior to COVID times, they had been discussing how to arrange a proper collection of these public sites around Port Townsend to both decolonize Port Townsend history and enhance Indigenous systems of knowledge properly. And they said, since 2019, this story, this new totem pole and 17 others have been on permanent display in Port Townsend as markers along the Cheechmahan Trail, an interpretive route that chronicles the history of the Sklallam people, the original people of Port Townsend, and Euro-American settlers as they work to coexist. Over 21 plus miles, 21 miles. You can come over here. We'll walk it together, me and you, my friends. Designed to be traveled in a 3-mile, 6-mile, or 12-mile loops on bike, foot, or in your car, the new trail more than fully fleshes out the historical narrative of Port Townsend, a popular tourism destination known for its reputation as a Victorian seaport, first known as Katay to the Sklallam people. And then I wrote, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, and I wrote about how they found the name of the chief. And I said, but thanks to research in grad school, now that I know in an almost Star Trek memory alpha retelling of local tribal knowledge that has been freely and publicly given on this trail, Chitsamoka is on that totem pole, which the Sklallam now call the welcome pole. Chetmoka is also called by another name, Chichmahan. Chichmahan, known to the Bostons, who some of you are all related to, as Chetsemoka. Chichmahan, who sat under his blanket in Kate for days to avoid war with the Bostons, before throwing it off to declare a kind of parlay. For those of you who are, Pirates of the Caribbean fans, Chichmahan declared parlay with the Bostons and led the Jamestown Sklallam to a treaty in Port Townsend, Washington. Chichmahan, who is a prominent figure on the welcome pole outside the Northwest Maritime Center en route to the park, bearing his other name, Chetsemoka Park. So I want to give this gift to you today as the first of the year, is if you hear somebody say that a language is dead, I found the original name of the chief of the Jamestown Sklallam, and actually the Jamestown Sklallam knew it the whole time, Chichmahan. So if you look at my blog, Skyler writes at substack.com, you'll see all the list, you'll get to see all the details, all the fun little language things. These languages aren't dead. And in fact, all of us, if we decide to, it was a long, literally a long-term through cyclist decided to help the Jamestown Sklallam make this trail for the person who brokered a peace treaty and avoided war with the Bostons in Port Townsend, Washington. Chief Chichmahan, this is my poetry tribute to you. So thank you so much, Minneapolis and St. Paul. Oh man, I really love you guys so much right now. Thank you so much.
Skyler, thank you. Thank you very much for that history lesson, because a lot of us are ignorant. But one small thing you might not know, not too long ago, one of the lakes in Minneapolis was called Lake Calhoun, and it was brought forward that the lake was named after someone who was really a racist and a bigot, and social pressure caused the city to change the name of the lake to Bedemanaska. And it's an Ojibwe name that was the original name of the lake. So the wheel is turning. Thank you for giving it a nudge.
I love that so much. We hear it here in my house every day. We sip our tea and our coffee, and we say hi to folks like you on Facebook and the internet, and we get articles at 8 o'clock in the morning. Some town somewhere in the Midwest has decided to, as they used to joke about in the 50s, go back to the reservation or whatever. I don't think there's going to be a reservation anymore. I think we're all looking for an actual integration. We want to live this history. So thank you so much. I really love that.
I was just gonna say one thing. It's when you talk about Minneapolis, and that all over Minneapolis is lakes and streets that are named in Ojibwe, and people don't even know. I mean, like that big, huge Nokomis Lake. I mean, I live in a little town in Wisconsin, and I don't, but you guys all know the other people here. And that's means grandmother. And I've told people like what it means, and they just laugh, because they know how to say it. They have no clue that it was. So cool. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Skyler. I just really appreciate your enthusiasm and your honesty and just your welcoming spirit. And I just think that is how we learn, and that is how we grow. Yes. Is with love and inclusion. And so I appreciate so much your heart. And I love that people are commenting and joining in on this conversation tonight with all the different poets. So a pleasure to have you, Skyler. Please include any of your information on the Minneapolis Poetry Sanctuary Facebook page as well. so that people can stay connected.
Yeah.
Up next, we have Richard. Welcome, Richard. You're on mute, so unmute. And I've never had you here before, so welcome.
Hello. Well, you just popped up on my Facebook feed, so I was interested since I do have a connection with Minnesota. My father was born in LaPorte, Minnesota, which is in the northern central part of Minnesota, not far from Bemidji. And what else is also awesome is that I live and was born in Albany, Oregon. So I have a connection with the gentleman in Corvallis there.
No way. I was just there the other week. That is wonderful.
Yeah, I live in
Hello.
Albany, Oregon, and that's where I'm at right now.
Hey, Mid-Willamette Valley. Good to see
Yeah,
you.
so it was awesome to hear you, and I really appreciated that. I have a few poems I'd like to read this evening, and so I'd like to get started. The first one I wrote about a week and a half ago. It's called Such Have I. Such have I made out of rightful words. My heart speaks what my mind hasn't heard. When brothers bow and sisters pray before the priestly holds of an amber day, they dance with wayward souls of twilight penitence, mingle sighs, pause, mingle sentences. We take a breath, catch ourselves before we march on, because under the shadow of the sun is found rapturous requisites that the morning speaks to herald in a glorious day. That's the first one. And I think I'll read this one. I think I actually wrote this today. It's called Abiding for Peace. Abiding substances irradiated epics to ethos, impossible theological objects for our soul. I gave a different offering, teaching the universe to heal with feelings of a flower. In the eternal hour, I came to pick up fragments of peace, those I can reach, for we need them so, as the eyes of the dead of wars are laid low and see no more. I ask, why do I care? Why should I dare? Because I have eyes to see, I do, and I go to seek the land where we are good. And one more short one. Catch my breath here. This is a tree, is a green machine. See and taste that the earth is good. Blessed is the one who cares. One from good speaks without guile, remembrance of those of the earth, where the tree of God is a green machine running on the sun's dreams, and the call of a poet's schemes, or perhaps not at all, perhaps something different is that call. For the bees needs the blossoms of the trees on which to feed, for the honey of the golden bears. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. I love the just the inclusivity of nature and just that interconnection, because we cannot separate ourselves out from that. We cannot separate ourselves out from the land on which we live and in which we, experience life. And I loved your poetry, so thank you.
Thank you. I'm not the best at reading, but thank you.
I thought you did a
Oh,
great job. I really
okay,
did.
well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And I'd love to
Strong
have you
connection.
again.
Good to hear somebody back from my hometown. Good to see you, my friend.
And then up next we have Yvonne. Welcome. You're on mute, so unmute yourself.
Hi there, good evening. I'm a virgin poet. I'm an evocative poetry writer using imagery and visionary as a tool to express attitudes, moods, experiences. So my first one is going to be called Remember. It has something to do with COVID, I think. I never know what I'm writing about. As her lungs emptied with a final breath, her walls of protection showcased her suffering that belonged to no one. Unapproachable, tender images pierced her heart with an abundance of her confessions that revered silence with respect, where worlds of voices gave off reflections of luminescent colors and emerald light dusting the air with tear-shipped eyes in a cold, charming, charismatic form, sweeping away twisted recollections that are difficult to recreate, trapping her in a dream, in dreams that are unnatural, with sleepy bows on shaded windows, hiding monstrous nightmares of living shadows beneath the falling sun as the night makes its appearance with glittered stars and magical darkness, illuminating echoes of emotions for tell a story of dashed dreams and glimpses of her future with impossible choices and sacrifices, keeping her encaged in a mental spiral of sapphire blue crystals as she sits in the corner, forgetting to breathe, forgetting to speak, recalling her memories when she was once loved, needed, but now misplaced in a reserved silence. I.A. Virgin Poet. My second piece, one minute, please. So this one doesn't have a title, I'm sorry. This luminous emotion that claims her heart while enduring blinding colors of imperfect fragments that speak of regrets and terrifying places where miracles exist in her perpetual yesterdays, and the sameness of echoes and paths that cross with endless encores of empty pages in empty notebooks with stories not yet told. As this luminous emotion protects her heart, it numbs its hardened form and crawls beneath the surface of her words where echoes strangely kept her afloat in images of dreams with edges of features that are lost and gone. In her perpetual yesterdays that spoke of how desperately the doors to her heart radiate a meaningless coldness, making her shiver with words inside her head of letters never opened, of small forgotten memories forever gone, of frozen smiles that hide pain and no dates of understanding. Why this luminous emotion turned her heart to stone. These fragments of her life seemed unfamiliar, consisting of death-like hidden watchers, distant as she could stare, as she stood in her own way, helplessly full of self-reproach. And in her circumstances, there is a social lacking, where tomorrow she chooses to speak of her open wounds. I.A. Virgin Poet. One more. That is 102. I have so many poems you can't believe. Okay. Oh yeah, this is the baby. So this is dedicated to Linda in honor of Jose Ivan Sacasa and for all of those who've lost their lives before their time. Subdued torment and intense long silence of passions gone where desires lead to nowhere, to what might have been. Tragedies of understood listening were never said, but remained undone. Survivors of dreams of images threaten your every word. Demons tear your insides of days long gone, and life doesn't mean you have to carry on living and regret being born. You know, the devil makes it harder for idle hands. There is no shame in wanting to die alone, turning the pages on life's contradictions, melting, resolving all things whenever done. As life goes, as life always does, forcing a smile trying to look composed. You look for something that does not exist, like a puppet, painfully manipulated, losing it all. Looking in people's eyes were not desirable as you lay awake. Proportions were magnified to not seeing straight. Life has lost all meaning, layer upon layer floating around in your head. Speechless, all words scream of despair. Floods of sleepless nights became hard to control. A life cold and tragic. You didn't love life enough. What the world had done to you was full of offloads. Never thinking about tomorrow kept you thinking. You were permanently undone. Confronting your nightmares kept you trapped in your attitudes, giving up on your dreams, your future, your nightmares confronted you, even when you were awake, to constant replays of nostalgic happiness that had lost its gleam, leaving you with feelings of emptiness, pulling you into an abyss of mistakes, lacking remorse, to vapor and fly away to a place of peace where your thoughts slip to a void where memories are repressed. Despair zigzagging through your head, losing your way, trying to find it too late. Loving something, someone left you expose your strength, your weakness, expose your nakedness. And not having words to reconcile your human sadness left you touchable but unexplainable with talks of no substance. Its weight and coldness, planless, thoughtless, amazed you with its content. Its music soothed the chaos inside of your head. With memories of intimate thoughts ever present were fraying on the edge. Theories of sad smiles somnolently spoken of, seemingly like cries of horrors still to come. Brooding of the past was totally present. Brief moments of happiness were cast in subdued shadows of done and undone things, taking you out of your normal state, making your vulnerability a state of solitude, leaving you inconsolable. In a world with no room for sharing, things like love or friendships you no longer saw, just closing doors of brittle glass. You saw illusions which pushed you to your limits, leaving you empty, not admitting the truth, just vague ideas of who you were and what life wanted of you. You're alone, trying to dismiss the hesitations of helplessness, which plunged you into panic and fear, never admitting if you survive, can you get out? To know it's already ended, peered you into darkness with sparkle, laughter, ringing like an alarm bell as your life went up in smoke. Real life had greater horrors that you could not invent yourself, and losing everything that you had already lost, haunting in tune as your heart showed the pain, the fear that somewhere curtains don't wear dresses anymore, exposing your nakedness for no reason at all. I, a virgin poet. Thank you very much.
Yvonne, that was so provoking.
Thank you.
The desperation in your voice was very moving.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Somewhere in my creative writing group, there's a poet E, and he says that when I recite, my voice is a total different voice.
Thank you so much, I Virgin Poet. I loved in the introduction to your poems that like you don't always know what your poem's about when you're writing it. And I love that because I do write poems like that sometimes, and it's definitely like there's something in your heart and your soul that wants to be said, and to just have that ability to just let it come and not judge it. And that's where what I feel with your poetry is like I'm on this journey of your emotions that are just coming so freely. So
that is my purpose. That is my purpose. I want to hold you hostage.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Well, Mike, we have another new poet. Michael, welcome. Introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm a poet in Central Kentucky, and I got notice of this off Facebook, like Richard did. So I'm here. I have a book of poems called Arranging Deck Chairs on the Titanic, Political Poetry for a Post-Truth World, published by Rabbit House Press, and it's available on Amazon.
Man, I think I heard of that book.
Oh,
That's not a
really?
joke. That's really cool. Hey, well, good to have you.
Well, that's great. That's great. None of the poems I have tonight are political.
Great.
So I will go ahead and start. The first poem was inspired by a performance by Adele. My wife was watching Adele on TV, and I decided to write a poem. Adele. The internet live streams broken heart reality shows, beautiful clothes, reality half an inch from the surface of the skin, vibrating always, even during sleep. What we feel now, we felt then, all of us born inside parentheses, containing what we think is life, a price tag tied to a physical body. Everything is lust. Breathe in, breathe out. The membrane's stimulation, Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia finding out who they really are. She makes herself up to attract herself in fake eyelashes and a smoky throat, sings the international anthem of all the restless proletariat hearts. God closes her eyes, dreams tequila in Tijuana, dreams vodka on the steps, dreams the Milky Way in Elijah's mouth, before he steps into the chariot. This next poem is about dementia. I write a lot about dementia. Alzheimer's runs in my family, and I sometimes worry that someday it's going to get me. But this was inspired by my aunt who had it. It's called The Golden Years. She calls the nurse, pressing the button nobody hears. She calls family, they let it go to voicemail, waiting to see if she will die. She doesn't. She calls to God, presents her argument, makes her plea, waits for the judge's gavel to strike the bench with a ruling. They stick her in a home. Night fears make conjugal visits. She calls the aide but can't remember why. Can't remember the girl's name, but pretends she does. The girl leaves when she thinks she's done. It must be nice. The same with visitors. Muscle memory of social interaction kicking in the tune, but not the words. All these strangers who are like fishing bobs, bobbing up, bobbing down, looking at their watches. The next poem is a sort of a lighthearted poem called Happy Holiday. She's been daydreaming about the North Pole, making a nice naughty list. She's dressed in red. He's a little green, but there's brandy in the punch. She smells like cinnamon and pine. Light from the fire she built reflects from her eyes like baubles on the tree. The sway of her sugar plums, the aroma of her Christmas pie, promise them both sweet and salty treats. She is ageless, whatever age he wants, in the indirect lighting of his imagination. Shadows of serendipitous touching softer than cotton balls. His toy soldier is winding up. Her ballerina tippy toes. They pull on the ribbon and begin to unwrap presents. And then the last poem is called Miranda Warning for Writers. You have the right to remain silent, but the urge to speak is the rock of ambition in your shoe, the methamphetamine of your melancholy, the fish hook in your heart. Anything you say may be used against you by the reader, by your mother, by government monitoring sedition and indecent exposure. You have the right to speak to God, to yourself, same thing, to Gina Lollobrigida or other dead people, to an agent if one will take your call. If you cannot afford a muse, you can pay for an MFA, or just try harder, or dance around in a funny hat and see if that works. Do you understand these rights, or did they escape through the hole in your head, that bloody inkwell where you dip your pen? Either way, it's an open and shut case. Your confession is scribbled all over the page. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike. Wow, especially in the ones about Alzheimer's and dementia, that runs in my family as well. And your ability to take us like into what their mind and heart would be at was really powerful. That's hard to do for me in my writing, to like get outside of myself and experience it from another person's point of view. So thank you so much.
And very penetrating, very, very penetrating. They resonated. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate the tightrope that you walk between being very, very straight with the truth and also giving us something to smile about. It's really especially necessary on the second of the year. First of the year, you're great. Second of the year, we're still thinking about it.
Well, I just want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you again for being here. For those of you who are watching, this community, like I've said, and I will always say, means so much to my heart and my soul. So please do share with others about this experience if you enjoyed it. I do try to post writing prompts on the page on every Wednesday, and I try to encourage people to post what they write from the prompt on, like in the comments. A lot of people don't, or they don't know that they're supposed to do that, but I just really want to continue the connections that we have in the community that we're building. So if you like it, and if you enjoyed tonight, please do share about it. And I appreciate it so much. And also feel free to share your work or anything further on the page as well. Thank you so much. This was the perfect entrance into this new year.
Wait, Frances, aren't you going to read anything of your own?
This is something I've been thinking about. I feel like I'm kind of selfish in a lot of ways in my life. And like in the past, I've shared quite a bit because there was, it was a smaller group. So I think tonight I'm gonna pass. But I might do, because I actually did do my hair and my makeup. I might do, maybe I'll read a poem on like my personal page or which I will share that with you. So my poetry and my art and my music is all combined into one. It's called Fran's Art from the Heart. I have a website, fransartfromtheheart.com. There's no apostrophe. I also have a WordPress blog that I occasionally post to, but that is where you will see my poetry, my painting, my block printing, my everything. I love it all. So yeah, you can check that out. So there we go.
Oh, thank you very much for facilitating. And I enjoyed every single reading tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Good
George,
night, everyone.
Frances,
sorry.
Thank you,
River.
everybody.
Mike,
Good night.
thank you, everybody.
Good night. Bye.